Hosea is referred to as a minor prophet. So basically there's four main characters that we'll be talking about. The first one you might have heard of, it's God. So he's a pretty big deal in the words of Ron Burgundy on Anchorman. He's kind of a big deal. Big G. The OG, right? Still G. So we'll talk about God. Hosea, who was one of the prophets, so God spoke to him and had him lead the people. And so the other two people that we're talking about is God's people, which is Israel, and then Gomer, who is the name of Hosea's bride. So I don't know why she was given a name like Gomer, but that's Old Testament stuff, You can name your puppy Gomer, but I wouldn't name my daughter that. But anyways, so before we dive into that, I want to share a quick story of a purchase that I deeply regretted to this day. So how many of you guys have been to Scarewinds? Ever been to Scarewinds? So basically it's Carowinds, shocker at that, but during Halloween. So I know, Lindsay, you're new to the area, so you'll check it out. Be sure to ride with Noah. Make sure you eat before you go on it a lot. But essentially, so they turn the whole theme park into Halloween themed, keep all the rides and that kind of stuff, but add elements of Halloween to it. And so we went. A friend of me went for my 14th birthday. My parents drove us down there and hung out, but they were elsewhere in the park. And so my dad gave me $20 and was like, "Hey, use it on food or whatever you want to buy." And so a 14-year-old me was like, "Sweet, I have a $20 bill." That's a lot back in that day. Now I'm like, blow that on food, which I hate. But and so he gave me $20 and gave me a responsibility of managing it to what I wanted to use it for. So my friend Sullivan and I, we went and rode some rides and that kind of stuff, and it wasn't even dark yet, and I went to one of the stores and I saw, I'm a huge gummy worm fan. I love gummy candies more than chocolate and all that. It's not a candy to me. So I'm a big fan of gummy worms, anything gummy related. And so they had a huge section, where you can scoop in at any theme park and fill up your bag or whatever. Well, the sign only said $1 and some change. And I'm thinking I can fill this whole bag up, and it's only $2. Well, I fill it up with 20 different kinds of gummies, and then I take it to the register, and the guy puts it on a little scale, and it weighs out, and he's like, "All right, that'll be $19.37. I'm like, I just hand him the 20 because I'm not thinking logically. As a 14-year-old, I'm just thinking I thought the sign said $1, but yeah, whatever. Here you go. And that's what sucks. I was stupid. That was halfway through our night. I had to put the bag away when we rode rides. It was I had a huge bag. And so when we met my parents to leave that night, my dad asked me, "Hey, did you guys have a good time? What'd you spend your money on?" And I showed him. He's like, "You spent all of that on candy?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Didn't you know you could have told him at the register, 'Oh, well, I only want $5 worth,' and he would have." I was like, didn't even think that. Didn't even trigger. And we literally were chomping on that candy for over a year. To put in perspective how much candy that was. And that was $20 worth of gummies. So that was a purchase to this day that still comes to my mind where I'm like, we got what's called buyer's remorse. Whether it's shoes or whatever, it's sometimes you're like, man, I really should have spent that much money on that. But God never has buyer's remorse with us. And that's what I really want to hammer in on tonight is that God understood the price that it would take for us because of the separation that we created by not choosing Him and said, "I'll pay it." There was no bargaining. So, and we'll revert back to that story. So if you have the Bible app on your phone or old-fashioned KJV, we'll be going over Hosea, and we'll basically be covering a few select verses through the first 3 chapters, and they'll all be on the screen. Because Elijah, shout out to you in the back, put it all together 5 minutes before you guys walked in. So handle it like a champ. So I will read about 1 or 2 verses and then digest it with you guys. And there'll be some key points that I want you guys to take away from it. Okay, and then bring it all together at the end and make sure that we take it with us as we leave. So Hosea chapter 1, verses 2 through 3. I'm going to read it as a whole and then go back and describe some of the words and explain that. So Hosea chapter 1, verses 2 through 3. When the Lord began to speak through Hosea, the Lord said to him, "Go, marry a promiscuous woman and have children with her, for like an adulterous wife, this land is guilty of unfaithfulness to the Lord." So he went and married Gomer, daughter of Diblaim, and she conceived and bore him a son. All right, time out. So you're telling me, if I'm Hosea and God tells me, hey, go buy or go marry this woman who's known for being extra friendly, you're telling me, God, to go marry her and have children. Yeah. There's no, well, wait, God, I just don't think that that's the best image for me. Or, God, do you realize where in the world she's been? Like, I don't know. There's no record of Hosea saying to God, I don't know if you know what you're talking about. Like, how could this work? So there's no record of him. In fact, it says, so he married, so he went. He was obedient. So in God's eyes, us abandoning him for other things is the same as whether you're married or in a relationship as them cheating on you. So that's the parallel. So God and his people of Israel are represented in this book that we're going over tonight through Hosea and his unfaithful wife, Gomer. So just keep that in mind. I'll make sure to keep referencing that. But Hosea was obedient, so he never questioned that. And so while we live in a culture where we have to constantly question authority, there's some validity to that, in times where you should. But Romans 8:28 talks about God works together all things for the good of those who love him. So God's never going to tell you to do something that's going to contradict him, and he always has your best interest in mind, even if there's no logic in it at the time that he's telling you to do something. So that's the first point, is that God told him to go do that, and he was obedient. So moving forward to the second chapter of Hosea, verses 2 and 5. Let her remove, this is God speaking of Israel, let her remove the promiscuous look from her face. Their mother has been unfaithful and has conceived them in disgrace. She said, I will go after my lovers who give me my food and my water, my wool and my linen, my olive oil and my drink. So the first part, let her remove the promiscuous look from her face. God will never force his way in your life. He'll do a lot to try and get you to the point where you need to be, but God will never force his way. It says in there, let her remove that look. Let her take her eyes that are cheating and put them on me. And in the same way that they use the word lover, she said, I will go after my lovers who give me my necessities. You got to think, 800 BC, food, water, wool, linen, olive oil, and drink. It's a lot harder to get and more vital for the daily than it is today. So keep that in mind. But as far as the lover's word, we can replace that with anything that we would desire, that we think we should chase after for fulfillment. So whether it be a relationship that you think is going to make you happy or not happy if you don't have it, or whether it's athletics, whether it's, if I don't go to college for this sport, my parents are going to be so disappointed. I'm going to let God down. I'm not going to be able to go and make millions of dollars. I'm not going to be able to soak in a hot tub with my lovely lady, wherever that's at. Uncle Rico quote, by the way. Coach just would put me in. Third string kicker. So you've got to realize that God desires our desire. I'll say it again. So for God, he wants your lover to be him. So when we think of what we desire, it means the world to him that it's him as number one. So if you have a wallet with some pictures in it, he needs to be that first picture that's there. Not saying that you can't have other passions in life, But if those things are competing for number one on your heart, it's going to show. We prioritize what is important to us. So you guys being here tonight shows where your heart's at. And not saying that the people that aren't here tonight don't love Jesus. Things pop up and we're not going to be legalistic about this. But I know several people so close to me who have no issue getting up at 6 a.m. for work or working out, but don't want to get up before 10 a.m. on Sunday. And then want to also say that they love the Lord. I know people who want so badly to love God, but they're like, I don't want to give this up. And they're holding on to something that's only hurting them. And that's what this lover is explaining. Gomer, the lady with the weird name, she's chasing after her lovers. And I really feel like there's a sense of sarcasm when the writer used that word, like lovers, like they're using her. You know? So in the same way that lovers is used to identify what means the most to her, idols that have replaced God are our lovers. And so I'm speaking myself too, guys. Like, for me, I'm a people pleaser. That's a lover that I choose. I love to be applauded by other people. And it's ironic that they asked me to stand up on stage, and I had to pray the last month, God, let this not be about me. Like, you're gonna do this whether I'm there or not. You know? And I love Francis Chan, author and pastor. He's got a quote that I came across. And it says, the irony is that while God doesn't need us but still wants us, we desperately need God but don't really want Him most of the time. Just think about that. And then I was planning on there being a little bit more guys in the room than girls, but so this quote is about Tom Brady, who is, for you ladies, he's the top of his sport, his category. 6-time, yeah, some of y'all are like, it's not bad looking either. But he's got it all, so he's got the most Super Bowls ever, he's making millions of dollars, he's married to a supermodel, living life on large, and in 2005, he came off his 3rd Super Bowl win, so it's hard enough to get one of those. He's coming off of 3, and he said in an interview, and he's not a Christian, by the way, there's times where I'm not the person that I want to be. Why do I have 3 Super Bowl rings and still think there's something greater out there for me? I reached my goal, my dream, my life. Me, I think, man, it's got to be more than this. I mean, this can't be what it's all cracked up to be. What else is there for me? So, the most successful quarterback in NFL history who is married to Miss Universe, I mean, she's known for her model status, soaking up billions of dollars over the course of everything that they've combined with, doesn't have God stiff-arming him, and yet he's not fulfilled. That applies to us as well. So moving forward to verses 6 and 7 and 13 on Hosea chapter 2. Therefore, this is God speaking, I will block her path with thorn bushes. I will wall her in so that she cannot find her way. She will chase after her lovers but not catch them. She will look for them but not find them. Then she will say, I will go back to my husband at first. Talking about God. For then I was better off than now. And verse 13 says, she put on her rings and her jewelry and followed her lovers, but she forgot me. My first thought reading this, I'm like, man, God's being pretty harsh. Thorn bushes? I'm going to wall her in so she will find out that it's not good. And I'm thinking like, wow, that's pretty brutal. Like, we're talking about this God that's so loving and so generous and gave his only son for us, and yet he's talking like this? That's pretty violent. That's pretty extreme. Bless you. But I came across a commentary by a famous preacher from the 1800s named Charles Spurgeon, and he put it better than I could. He's talking about the Lord's love is so strong for us that he would rather see us go to heaven empty-handed than go to hell full-handed. So, if God can help it, which he can, he would rather strip everything that you own on this earth if it means knowing him. Because eternity is a lot longer than the 80 or 90 years that you would get max here. So, putting it back to Tom Brady, he has it all, and yet has nothing. Isn't that ironic? Like, so many people look up to him and like, I want that life. And he's like, there's got to be more to it than this. And yet, we think that God's too extreme to try and block us from what ultimately is destroying us. So it goes back to our own lives. Whatever that looks for you. In the end, God says, she forgot me. I can't read that without thinking of the pain that it brings to the Lord when we forget him. When all the things that he's given his own creation, life, money, talents, and we have the audacity to use it on other areas of our life. And we're trying to say, no, God, it's mine. What are you doing trying to put a thorn bush in front of me? Like, it's the audacity that we have. Like, all the blessings that we can ever get on this earth are given by him. Every gift is given by the Father, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. It pains him when we forget him, when we misplace him on the throne. And I know we're talking about tonight. I'm not really joking that much because I'm passionate about this. Because, like I said, we know the what's of Christianity, and we know that Jesus paid a price. But I want to elaborate on why there was a price. And this is the gospel in and of itself, even before Jesus ever touched earth. Verse 16, 19, and 20 on Hosea 2. There's a shift right here. You will call me my husband and no longer call me my master. I will betroth you to me forever. Betroth just means dedication or marry. So I will marry you to me forever. I will marry you in righteousness and justice, in love and compassion. I will betroth you in faithfulness, and you will acknowledge the Lord. So you see the shift in intimacy. So just as God is talking to his people, he had always loved his people as a faithful husband would. He had lavished them with everything. But here, it's very worth noting that they had never been told to call him husband before or view him in that manner. So there's a shift from yes, master, to yes, husband. So, and we're not talking literal, so like whether you're a guy or girl, it doesn't matter. The picture is the intimacy. So there's a couple of us in here that are married and several of us that have significant others. I don't want my wife to ever feel like she has to be married to me. I want her to choose marriage. And to be honest, she wasn't a big fan of me when we first met. I had to keep bugging her, but it worked out right. She's on that contract. She chose to marry me. Real love demands a choice. God doesn't want robots, and that's why free will is so huge. And people are always like, well, if God's so real, why is there so much this and that? It's because people aren't choosing him. There are a lot of thorn bushes right now because people aren't choosing him. And that's why there's so much pain and anger and bitterness. Is because people I've got so many friends, and it chokes me up almost. I have so many friends that are holding on to everything but don't want Jesus when I talk to them about him. But yet they're open about their struggles. They're like, man, I can get any girl I want, but I always find something wrong with her. Or I got friends who are rolling in the dough, and they can't fill that void that only God can. Like, it goes back to the lovers of the heart. And I can attest to that too. Before I came to Jesus, like, I was always up and down. And I found my identity in sports, in the girls I was dating, and what people thought of me. And once that stuff was taken from me, I was down. And now, I pray that I never have to go a day without my wife, but I know that she's not what gives me my fulfillment and my joy. And the same with me to her, it's God. But because we're faithful, he gives us the desires of our heart. Psalm 37 talks about take delight in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. So it's not that we do it in hopes that we get what we want, but when we shift and align our desires to God, we in return get his desires. So we start seeing people the way he sees them. We start seeing the things that he sees. We start wanting the things that he clearly wants in Scripture. And so at that point, we're fulfilled. We're not always in the highs and lows of life, and there's just that intimacy. So it goes from changing your viewpoint of God from being an angry bully who's waiting for you to mess up to, no, that's my lover, that's my creator. I get to know him. So that there's so much beauty in that. And it's the changing from the head knowledge to the heart. That's what I want you guys to mainly take away from tonight is we know all about what Jesus did, but this is resulting in the why he did it. And then finishing out, Hosea 3, 1 through 3. The Lord said to me, go show love to your wife again. Though she is loved by another man and is an adulteress, love her, notice this, love her as the Lord loves the Israelites. Though they turn to barley, then I told her, you are to live with me many days. Just the beauty of that. I mean, I can read that over and over. I mean, the Lord said to me, go again. So in this verse right here, Gomer left Hosea to go back into prostitution. So after they were married, had 3 children, that wife said, you know what? I'm out. When I read this, I couldn't imagine my wife saying, yeah, we had a good thing going, but I'm going to go do me. I'm going to go chase after money. I'm going to go chase after other guys. I don't want to be committed to you. But the thing is I realized that in this picture, you and I represent her, not Hosea. You and I represent the one that denies the faithful husband when we pursue anything that God isn't in. See, when we buy an item, it's because we lack what it can give us or we want to add our collection. However, the Father didn't purchase us because we had something special to offer him. Due to the Creator's immense love and desire for his creation to know him, the Father knew his Son was the only way to bridge the gap of separation that we created by choosing sin over holiness in the first place. Hosea bought her. Hosea went, and I watched the video earlier, he went to an auction where they were selling his wife as property. And he didn't say, well, I'll give you this. Oh, no. He said, what's the price? I'll pay it. There was no bargaining. There was no bargaining. I mean, there's no illustration. I tried coming up with one. There's no illustration that does nearly any similar impact that we can have in our daily life. Romans 5:8 is one of my favorite verses in the entire Bible, and it says, But God demonstrates his love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. When we were at our lowliest, when we were at our worst, God said, what's the price? Even though I created them for my glory to know me, I'm going to go and buy what is already mine, whatever the price is. And so a couple things from that. That's complete. There's no 14-day return period. There's no if they don't meet up the criteria, if they live up there to the bargain, I'm out. I'm going to return it. No, it's finished. That's what Jesus said before he bowed and gave his spirit up. And I did some studying. Last point. I did some studying on what Hosea paid. Because, when I read it, I'll be honest, I'm like, how the heck do I pronounce this? Lethic? So I bought her for 15 shekels of silver and about a homer and a lethek of barley. And basically what that would equate to today is about 6 months worth of wages. So that would be me not eating cookout at all, not buying any shoes, taking exactly what I make on a month-to-month basis for 6 months, and then buying my wife, who was already mine to begin with. And the point that blows my mind, there was a quote, 30 pieces of silver So he paid 15 pieces of silver, and then the other stuff that he paid with would have equated the 15 that's lacking. So in total, he paid about 30 pieces of silver. Never mind that this would have been about 6 months' wages in the day and time, half a year's earning. Who can get past the fact that in providing a picture of God's love for his people, Hosea pays for Gomer what Judas was paid to betray Christ? This is 800 years before Judas did that. Paid the same price to betray the one who would buy us all that Hosea would pay to have Gomer, who was already his to begin with. See the beauty of that irony? You know, people want to get into the legitimacy of the Bible. That in itself, two writers 800 years apart could not ever make those two things coincide like that. That's just one example of that, but that just blew my mind. So as Jonathan comes up, I want to hammer in on 5 takeaways, major takeaways from tonight. So number 1, and you can jot these down or make note on your phone. Number 1, God does not owe us anything. We owe him everything. There's no entitlement in the Christian life. He doesn't owe us anything, and yet he paid the full price. Number 2, God never has buyer's remorse. Think back to that candy story I shared at the beginning. You know, to this day that stands out. Well, like, wow, I blew $20 on candy. God never says, you know what, they really messed up this week. I'm going to take that back. I regret the purchase that I made. He doesn't look at Eli and say, you know what, Dame Lillard didn't win that game the other night, and because he loves him so much, I'm just going to put him over there and say, you're better off on your own. Doesn't do that. Number 3, we are deeply loved. Like, the title of my message was the greatest purchase. The greatest purchase. We are loved, and we live in a world that is very, very broken and needs to hear this message. So many people who don't know Christianity, don't know Jesus, don't know God, they think that God is this bully and is controlling and is this dictator, but he loves you so much. It's the only religion out there that offers where the Savior steps in and says, my place for yours. Every other religion says if you're good enough, then maybe you can earn your way here. But Jesus stepped down and said, no, they'll never match up. I'm going to step in and pay the price that if they believe me, they're one with the Father just as I am. And because of that unfailing love, we are called to love others regardless of any situation. Any situation. Never feel like someone's so bad or so far off that they don't deserve the grace, because while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. He didn't find us where we're all clean and shiny and said, I'm going to buy that one because he has something that I don't have. Number 4, real love demands a choice. So choose Jesus daily. Spend time with him. Read. Praise. Like, it's a privilege to talk to God. Have you ever thought about that? Like, we get to talk whenever, however, with the same God who created the universe and everything in it and stuff that NASA hasn't even found yet. And he said, you know what? I'm gonna buy her. And lastly, live a life that points others to Christ. If you're wearing the jersey that says Christian, people are watching you, whether you know it or not. We have such a great opportunity here. You guys do, whether you're in middle school or high school or working or even the adults here where we're at. We got a mark on our back, and God's going to hold us responsibility, not for their conversion, but for at least presenting the option. Some people don't even know about this. Like, it pumps me up because, like, this is it. We prioritize what's important to us, and really, unless it's about loving God or his people, it doesn't ultimately matter. We could have X amount of money in our checking account. We could own 3 houses. We could go and take off on a vacation whenever we want. But ultimately, that doesn't mean anything to God. It means nothing. What means the most to him is that you would handle what he gave you, and that's you have a story to tell. And the biggest thing you can do most of the time is just tell people, hey, this is what Jesus did for me, and I'm for we're going to wrap up. Just take a few minutes. Basically what we need to do tonight, all of us,